you're working with such amazing planetary consciousness. I mean, Gaia, she's 4 billion years old. I mean, she knows far, far more than what little old Maria knows in her lifetime. So when we work with these planetary bodies, we are working with such amazing, ancient, archaic, akashic energy fields. The planets get to know you, you get to know the planets, I get to know Gaia, Gaia gets to know me. They want your trust, they want your love, they want to see your heart, they want to see your soul. And when that happens, it's just like this beautiful friendship. Well, next time you have a look at the moon, think of it as being living, think about it as being breathing, think about it as being a potential friend. So if we look through the eyes of the ancestors, we get a little glimpse into how they became one with the surroundings.
In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Amy Fournier, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. Hello, friends. I know you're interested in being as healthy and as fit and happy as possible, and we can't be healthy and fit and happy if we're stressed out. And we're going to be stressed out if we're worried about money, if we're worried about security. And money and security go together. We all need to feel financially secure. It's craziness out there. But one thing that I've found that's made me feel a lot better and has really helped me sleep at night is finding a great resource that I can trust for getting real gold and silver. Gold and silver is a great hedge against inflation. This resource is fantastic. It's meant for the everyday person, just like you and me, that don't know anything about gold and silver. You might want to diversify your assets a little bit and have a little bit of safeguard in gold and silver. Well, if so, please contact me. You can find it on my website, amyfournier.com, under Financial Freedom, or just hit me up with an email at amy@amyfournier.com and put in the subject line, interested in gold and silver. And I will set you up with some great resources that you can check out and see if it's for you or not. Hey, I bet you work out. Yeah, I mean, you know I do, right? I mean, it's an essential component of a healthy lifestyle. But did you know that if you work out and if you sweat a lot and if you're stressed a lot and you do any kind of intermittent fasting or fasting at all of these things can diminish your electrolytes. I have them every single day. And there's one company that is definitely my favorite, Paleo Valley. This is a great product. I love it. I happen to love the orange flavor. It's really delicious, and I can feel really good about having it in the morning. Check it out on my website, eStore. Enter the coupon code AmyFournier10 at checkout, and you can save 10%. And let me know what you think. Did you know that from the beginning of time, there's been days of the year that cultures have known are power days? Because of the way the moon, the sun, the stars, and all the planets align, that ancient cultures have learned are conducive to certain activities and behavior and manifestation of things happening. That's right. They're called power days of the year, and they're the same every year. Do you know what they are? Well, you're in for a treat today. Welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. The show is about helping you to be healthy and fit in mind, body, and spirit, as well as harmonizing your masculine and feminine energy, tapping into your intuition, your true source of power, and awakening your authentic self. Today, we're going to revisit a classic. We're going back in the archives, way back to episode 40, because, well, it deserves it. This episode is one of my favorites, and for a lot of you guys, it's one of your favorites too. Whether you've heard it before back in the day, or maybe you haven't heard it before because you're new to the show, or perhaps even your first time here. And if so, welcome to our group. Well, this show is with Maria Wheatley, and you might be familiar with that name because she is a regular on Gaia TV, one of my favorite networks, and she is an expert in the ancient goddess cultures. In fact, in this episode, she talks to us about Malta. Have you heard of Malta? Malta is known as the land of the goddess. And I don't know about you, but that is on my bucket list to definitely visit before I pass from this life. So in this episode, Maria shares with us so much of her lifetime wisdom and work, like the work of the goddess, the power dates of the year, and connecting with the earth and the feminine aspects of nature. This is all stuff that my show is about, which is why we are revisiting it today. In fact, if you're interested in the Wheel of the Year and the power dates, then you might want to look for my episode about the Wheel of the Year, and that will be in the show notes. If not, scroll through Awakening Aphrodite, Wheel of the Year, and you will find it. So, enjoy this episode with Maria Wheatley and let us know what you think. Maria Wheatley, welcome to Awakening Aphrodite.
Well, thanks for having me, Amy. It's my pleasure.
I am just so thrilled to have you on the show. And I honestly, I know a little bit about energy and all that stuff, but you're really going to educate me on geomancy, dowsing, ley lines, earth energies, all this stuff. I want to hear about Stonehenge. Let's start. Well, actually, why don't you tell us, since we're just going to really be basic, where should we start? What does the beginner need to know about all your life's work?
Well, I think to begin with, it is just so simple. We live on a beautiful planet called Gaia, and most people refer to her as Gaia. She's 4 billion years old. And just like us, we have veins and we have arteries pumping through our body. So does Gaia, and they are earth energies. Some are male, some are female. She has straight lines that go around the globe, and some of them go into great circles. They're the ley lines. So it's really about earth energies that are Gaia. And when they're easy to find with a little bit of practice, earth energies are so easy to find, and they can calm us, they can heal us, they can balance us. So basically, Gaia is giving us a gift to humanity by saying, if you can tune into these energies, you can self-heal, you can self-balance.
Tremendous. Okay. So were you one of those kids that grew up always feeling energy? Your father was the predominant dowser of the United Kingdom. I mean, did you have a proclivity for this type of work? How can the normal person, the non-sensitive person that probably lives in their head most of the time, get on board with this whole program?
Well, again, if a tiny little bit of Down's intuition, and that's all it takes, a tiny bit, or look up online, you can easily, this is a Dowsing instrument. It's called an L rod. It's a copper rod because that copper relates to Venus and Aphrodite. It's her metal. So it's very sensitive to earth energies. And then if you visualize in your mind a female energy in the landscape, just visualize that in the mind and say it in your mind, I'd like to find a female energy, and then your rod will literally turn to a direction and say walk in that direction till it goes to found. And that's really simple to do. Like I say, with a little bit more tuition, you can find out lots of different things. But also we can look to where nature tells us where the earth energies are, because, Amy, animals are far more connected to the earth than what most people are, okay? So you don't even need to have a dowsing rod. Just look to where yew trees grow, hemlock trees grow, sage grows, for examples, where rooks and ravens nest, and where you have evergreen trees. They are above positive earth energy. Yeah, so you could just look around to nature and think, oh, there's an evergreen tree over there. I think I'll stand by the tree, because trees are wisdom keepers as well. They're teacher trees. So we can just literally go into that energy field there. And where we see trees that kind of grow bended or twisted, or likewise, that's where the energy is a little bit too strong. It's probably a vortex energy. So only a little interaction with that is required. Whereas the more gentle earth energies I've described, which is called a really feminine energy, rises out of the ground, and it's caused by very, very, very deep water within the earth. born within the earth, independent of rainfall. And that generates this beautiful energy that comes up that trees and animals really like. Look to a field. Where do the cows lie? Where do the horses lie? That's guaranteed to be good earth energy because they know what's good for them. So we can look to lots of different aspects of nature and just follow the lead of trees and animals.
Perfect. That is, I am completely in unison with that message. I say that all the time myself. I always say that animals and children are our greatest teachers. And I am so thrilled to hopefully be part of the effort to get people back to nature and back to this big connection that our souls and our planet and our lives need so desperately. So, okay, that's so beautiful. Can we step back and please explain to us what is geomancy?
Geo means earth and mancy means divination. So according to the ancient text, going way, way back millennia ago, there were four great sciences or mancies. There was geomancy, which was the divination by earth. There was cryomancy, divination by fire. Aeromancy, divination by air. And hydromancy, divination by water. So geomancy is literally looking at the land, how things grow, how things survive, how to interact with the earth, and how to build the best type of building in the best area. All of that is covered by geomancy. And geomancy is one of the oldest divination systems, far, far older than tarot or astrology. It was one of the first where ancient men and women used to just start off by throwing seeds on the ground to predict the next harvest, what was going to be a good winter or a good summer. And eventually that turned into just using staff in the ground to create dots. And after that, it was turned into a divination system where you could use cards, basically. So you can have geomancy, which is quite to do with the earth and building. Could you imagine, for example, and this is what I've trained architects for, Amy, if you imagine that we could have the best place, healing energies, to put a hospital above. That's where we could go. Now, children that are autistic or have some kind of need that they really would thrive on, you could put them on a crossing point of a particular grid system that opens up the throat chakra, opens up the throat, the ability to communicate, and put that unit there. So if we live in harmony with Gaia, if we live in harmony with the earth, there's only one way to go, more and more balanced and more in a loving kind of space for humanity as a whole.
I love it. Okay, so not to get too ahead of ourselves, but how does a person in the modern age practically do that? Like, okay, so let's say their house is on lay. Well, I'm probably getting ahead of myself. I don't want to confuse people, but how could they? How do they do that? Let's just say you gave a beautiful example of a autistic child. Let's say one of the people listening to the show or watching on YouTube has an autistic child. It's like, wait a minute, what does she just say? Like, what do they do, Maria? Like, where do they go to follow up on that type of comment?
Well, I'd say the easiest thing is to look to an animal. And cats are traditionally, according to all of the research, go way, way back to the 1930s to the 1960s in Dowsing, says cats naturally, not going on an owner's lap for wanting fuss, but where they naturally go in the landscape, they like what's called geopathic stress. And geopathic stress is toxic earth energy. So wherever the cat goes by itself, avoid that area. Where a dog goes naturally, not to be fussed by the owner, then that represents good earth energy. So that's one identification just by looking at animals, for example. So we can do it that way. Also, there's a really easy way to do it using dowsing, a dowsing rod with a little bit of training. You can ask a dowsing rod to show you where a ley line is, show you where an earth current is, show you this, show you that, and so on and so forth. But I would say to a person that doesn't have any awareness of dowsing, you just look to where your animals go. And if you haven't got any animals, then one simple tip is get an L rod like this and just stand in the doorway of the room, looking into the room. okay, and literally say into the dowsing rod with intent and with beauty and with focus, show me the best area for my autistic child to sit. And it will move and it will point. Follow the rod by walking, and when it goes into the body or away from the body, or it moves slightly, that's the area. So that's the quickest and easiest way to determine something without any training.
Okay, so I've got to play devil's advocate. I love what you said. For the skeptic listening, what do you, I mean, you must get this all the time. People saying, well, you know, prove it. This is really woo-woo. What do you mean? Is things going to point? What is your comeback to that common mindset if you get that comment?
Well, yes, and I have for some of my books, I have proved this. I was a professional water diviner. I can find you water, and if I can find you water, I can find you anything. And just recently, I found a long lost holy well that was concreted over for a healing center. I don't normally do water divining now, but for a good cause, I will do that with love.
So
Okay?
you use a device to douse for water, like
Yeah. This.
Okay, so she's pointing at the copper L rod. Okay.
The copper L rod, or you could use a traditional hazel stick that will
Yeah.
rise up under pressure. That's a very old-fashioned way, but effective nonetheless. Then I say to the skeptics, I have proved in one of my books, go to, I'll mention a website later to get an article from, standing stones at places like Stonehenge, for example, Amy, if you imagine like an acupuncture needle going into meridian line, okay,
Yep.
going into an energy center in the body, then the stones do the same. And then the energy from the earth, the ley line it's rooted into, or an earth current, or whatever, rises up through the stone and emits it in a particular manner. That's too fantastic, people say. No way, Maria. That's that no way. That's double woo. Woo, 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 woo. And then I said to a team, come with me and bring your equipment and test the Hertz frequency. Wherever I douse, you get your equipment and you see if it will make it move the equipment or it won't. It's simple as that. And they were really blown away, and they put it through a statistical t-test, 99% accuracy. What I was saying was happening to a standing stone and releasing a Hertz frequency. So there was that experiment done. And another one where I say there's underground water, for example, which I mentioned earlier, there's two types of underground water. One is feminine and one is male. And then I would say to somebody with equipment registering negative ions, because wherever you get underground water or surface water, you will get negative ions that are good for us. Okay? Yep. To breathe in. And each and every time, Amy, it goes negative ion zone, and I'm getting that with the dowsing rod. So I say to people that are interested in dowsing, don't believe me. You know, we go and get the evidence, and that's what I did, because I don't expect people to follow me. I don't like that whole kind of guru energy. I want to say to people, you be empowered. This is the information. This is the research. You make up your own mind. We're intelligent people, and we're at the age now where we should be listening to ourselves and our own intuition rather than looking outside of the box to other people.
Amen. 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 That's fantastic. So, all right. So, what I love about what you said is what it comes down to is it's all electricity, and electricity is measurable. You mentioned the Hertz reading. So, this can be scientifically, materially shown to alter a change or a response. I mean, let alone just results speak for themselves, right? Like someone feels better or something happens, right? But we can actually physically, tangibly measure electricity. And what we're talking about is an electrical currents. Did I get that right?
Absolutely, Amy. That's amazing. A very good observation. Yes, that's exactly. You're interacting with an electromagnetic field that Gaia is emitting and that you can measure. So it's a bit like the veins and arteries. She has major earth currents that are like arteries, and then she has minor ones feeding into that system, which are like the veins. Then she has power centers like Stonehenge, which could be the the liver, the heart. It's almost like Gaia is a body, and the ancients recognized these power places and put their pyramids on them and put temples on them, etc., etc. And they all link up all over the world beautifully with ley lines, but they're on these massive amounts of earth energies, and then the leys feed that energy round the world from one site to another to another. That was the vision of our ancestors, which was pure alchemy, because it could transmute anything, lead into gold at these places. And even though we just look at the vestiges of the pyramids and the ruins of Stonehenge, that power is still there.
You can feel it
into these. Oh, absolutely. You would tingle all over, Amy. You're going to have to come to Stonehenge with me and tingle.
I really want to, and I want to go on one of your Egypt tours that I know you're going to tell us about at the end of the show. I'm all about it. I am totally on board. I love this so much. So can you please educate us on your knowledge about the ancient cultures? And my understanding is that all the ancient cultures all around the world somehow knew where these power spots were without all the fancy electronic Hertz reading equipment. And then they built their temples, their churches, their monastery, whatever there were on these spots. So other than reading the animals, which apparently they must have done as well, how did the ancient cultures find these power spots? How did they know to work with the planets and the stars? And can you just give us the bottom line on all that? Or is that just a huge answer?
No, it's a really good question, and one that needs to be addressed. How did they know these invisible places? Well, I think on a few levels. Or on one level, if we go back to 6000 BC, then and possibly even earlier than that, in a cave drawing, painting on walls in Africa, Algiers, Africa, there's what appears to be somebody giving a dowsing lesson to somebody. Okay, so I think they were using dowsing. I also think you mentioned in the introduction, Amy, that I discovered the elongated skulled people of Stonehenge. Well, when I went to visit one of the skulls in a top English university to photograph, and her skull was like this. You imagine our skulls are like that.
So excuse me, so she's showing, just for the listeners, that she's taking her hand way behind the back of her head, showing how long they were. So they were literally horizontally long, not vertically.
Yeah, not like the practice cone heads. They were long headed.
Wow.
And when I went into the university, I literally had a couple of minutes alone with a 5,000-year-old woman, literally her skull. It was such an honor to be around an ancestor as such, because my own spirituality is of druidry, of this landscape. So I felt she was very like of my ancestors. And when I gently put my hand over her throat area, which some people say is the throat chakra, the third eye chakra, and the crown chakra, and I started to move along her head, it was almost like she had two crown chakra points, because it was like energy coming out of the skull at those points. So I think that with the long skulls, they were the people that found these power places. King Tut had a long skull. Nefertiti did. The people of Stonehenge did. And I think maybe they had extrasensory perception because they had a different shaped skull. I think also, just like you would feel at Stonehenge today, Amy, walking up to it, you're entering an energy field. So I think even without the long skulls, even without the dowsing, when one walks towards these places, you just feel the energy. Woo. So, so lots of different things to find these places. And then once you enter the energy field, which surrounds an ancient site. Then when you go into the holiest of holies by the center of that site, be that in Malta, be that the King's Chamber in Egypt, be that by the altar stone at Stonehenge, you just feel your consciousness go, whoa, up. Yeah, you're in an altered state of consciousness. And that's why the Christians, they too placed their altar altered state of consciousness above these power centers, because they literally lift you up. Now, can you imagine at places like Avebury, which is the world's largest stone circle, that can fit up to 1,000 people in, 1,000 people collectively raising their consciousness? That's what we should aim for, like today, to reenact what our ancestors did millennia ago.
I mean, let's just get the tour buses on the way there. I think the whole planet needs to go there immediately as soon as possible. The world needs it. Okay, so I need to ask you, if the long-skulled people were obviously so evolved and tapped in, why don't we have long skulls? What happened to them?
That is a really, really good question. It was found in my research, especially around the Stonehenge environment, because that was like a spiritual capital, you know, like New York and Washington is, you know, that was the cosmopolitan happening place in the ancient world. And it seemed that there in the long barrows, which were their burial deposit remains, they were placed into what's called long barrows. It was seemed that some of them had been murdered. They had been, you know, there must have been a big conflict. Now, the conflict probably happened with what's called the Beaker culture in 2500 BC, coming into the British Isles, and they had round skulls. And they probably had some kind of, you know, maybe it was a land issue, what we see today, you know, greedy people wanting more land in effect sometimes. And I think there was a conflict, but that doesn't account for whole population. You can't murder a whole population, you know, that you could with genocide. But I think what happened as well, a bit like in South America, Amy, the Europeans brought diseases that they had no immunity to. So add a conflict, then add disease into that, then that they probably literally died out around about 2480 BC is speculated. We don't know the exact date.
I was going to ask you the date. Well, how about just, I mean, I know with the testing they do on remains, I mean, they didn't detect any kind of, I don't know, the food was poisoned or something, like something of that nature that wiped them out?
No, not at that time of the prehistory. It's the Bronze Age. I think it was a mixture of the immigration and a mixture of illness and disease. And then what happened is they just put the remains into the long barrows and they sealed them up for all time. So it wasn't until the 1950s that the long barrows were starting to be dug out properly by archaeologists that began to study prehistory. And they ignored the fact that they had long skulls. I mean, they must have found a few. And it wasn't until my research in about 2014, 2015 that I started to speak publicly on shows like yours and conferences that this is the hidden history. This is the history that we're not taught in schools.
What do you think was in that part of the skull that our skull doesn't have?
Well, for one, the brain capacity was bigger. Okay, so you've got a bigger brain capacity, which may or may not mean they were more intelligent, but presumably so. You know, but I'm not saying that I'm with anything with certainty because I don't know, but I presume that they had a bigger brain capacity. But more than that, when we look to how they lived and how they worked the land, they were communal people. So they lived together and they died together. So in a long barrow where the burial deposits went, it wouldn't be for one person like today. You go, you know, in the ground by yourself. You're not with anybody else. But they buried themselves together and kept adding to it. They had no land division. So the land was ours, not mine. Right. And when the Beaker people came over, they suddenly divided the land up. This is my land for my house. This is my kingship. This is what I own. And ego took over. So I think the long skull people were more communal, more living in harmony with the goddess and the male, the sun and the moon. And then the Beaker culture, they'd started to divide up the land because we know that because they built big dikes and boundaries of earth, which are called ranch boundaries. So it was a different lifestyle. So it was probably a clash of lots of things. Imagine if somebody came along to you and said, oh, you're not living like that anymore. You're going to be living like this. You'd kind of be, why? I want my lifestyle. So I think the long-skulled people were up against it on lots of different levels, including their own spirituality.
Unbelievable. Wow. Okay, so tell us about the sacred sites that you have found that were, I don't know if the word is dedicated to the goddess energy or all about it, or tell us about what you found with the feminine cultures in your research.
The most beautiful and gentle feminine culture in the world is renowned to be in Malta, land of the goddess.
Where's that? Malta?
Malta, it's off the Mediterranean. You've got
Okay.
Greece and you've got those type of countries. Malta's just a little bit over to that area of the Mediterranean.
Well, I guess I'm going there.
I've got a tour book there, hopefully, all being well, in October. It's actually full now. But I say it's the most feminine because every single temple had a goddess figure in there and a voluptuous figure, a real childbearing hip woman, you know, gorgeous and voluptuous. Yeah. And in the old Maltese language, they had no word for father. It was just the mother and the mothers. So their culture was completely identifying with the goddess culture, and they had figurines of the goddess. They had a beautiful altars. It's ornate carving into limestone. And imagine you've got two temples, one called Manidra at the bottom, which is a rose-colored limestone. And against the sunset setting, it goes golden red. Yeah, it's one of the most beautiful sights, and that's on 2 stories. And you've got a kind of male energy as you go in into the entrance, because that was aligned to the sun rise at the equinox. So a shaft of male energy enters the womb of the temple twice a year at the equinox. So they kind of integrated the male and the female to produce harmony, to produce the inner child, to produce lovemaking. And on the top floor that you have an area that looks very womb-like as well. They all look like the womb in Malta, and that's very feminine as well. And then just above the hill you have Hagaim temple, and that is a kind of yellow golden temple. So you've got a rose-colored temple and then a golden-colored temple, and it feels sensual. It feels like you are coming into your power when you enter those. And I always choose on my tours a full moon to experience the energies as well. When the female energy orb is high in the sky and her light is spreading down across the sea towards the temple, is truly a sight to behold. And found in the most feminine temple of Malta called the Hypogeum. Oh, listeners, Google the Hypogeum. You're going to fall in love with Malta.
Can you please spell it?
I'd have to write it out myself first. Hypogeum. Yes, it's
water.
Hypogeum. Hypogeum. Hypogeum, because
water.
Yeah, what the ancestors did in Malta, probably led by a priestess cult, priestess school, mystery school, call it what you will. They dug 2 stories down in the solid limestone bedrock to make a womb-like area. And it's just like at the pyramids. How did they see what they were doing? There's no soot. They must have had a light source. And it's so intricate. Everything is carved so beautifully. It looks pristine, but you're 2 stories down. But the amazing thing about the Hypogeum and all these womb-like rooms is there's one room called the Oracle Chamber. And it's called the Oracle Chamber, Amy, because if I was stood in there and I said, Amy, in every single of the chamber, and there's numerous chambers, you'd hear Amy, 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 Amy. Then it would build up to reverberate and reverberate and reverberate till you feel the sound going through your body. That's the Hypogeum. And a lot of people, when they think about ancient sites, they think about Stonehenge and the pyramids. So I always remind people of the land of the goddess and Malta, because it's little talked about, but it is one of the most amazing experiences to interact with the temples there, and they are so beautiful. And right at the bottom of the hypogeum, it will lead to a well. Originally, it's dried out now, but back in the original design canon, and there was found to be what's called the sleeping beauty goddess, a very delicate goddess led on a little pillow like that, asleep with what looks like a kind of big pregnant belly, if you will, and that's very famous. So every single temple there is dedicated to the goddess, but with the balance alignment of the sun, the masculine sun, pushing his light into those temple spaces. So it's about balance and fertility and holistic health, if you will, as well. Because once we experience those type of energies that have been imbued in those temples for 5,500 years, you can't fail to feel that in your body and go away feeling truly blessed, refreshed, and beautiful.
That is absolutely incredible. I am absolutely going there. I don't care if I have to swim. I am going there. Well, I got to tell you, I recently, a few years ago, I went to Israel, and it's the place my mom has always wanted to go. And my father had passed away, and she thought she was never going to go. So my sister-in-law and I took her, and we went to all these ancient sites for my mom because she's quite religious. And I could feel the energy. I mean, it's very powerful, very, very powerful. And a couple times I was literally speechless. I mean, it's almost like, I sad to say, but it's almost foreign type of energy. I wish it wasn't foreign, but it was like, wow, like what am I feeling? It's so encompassing and palatable. And it's almost like you dissolve. Your body dissolves and you just get encompassed by this force. And in addition to that, one of the things I felt the most was when we swam in the Dead Sea. And it wasn't even what I felt while I was in the Dead Sea, but it was what we felt after. And my mom's knee was actually hurting her from all the touring we were doing. We were walking like, temples and cobblestone paths and up and down stairs. So it was a lot of touring and walking. So her knee was bothering her, but her knee was like fine after she swam in the Dead Sea. And, obviously people go from all around the world to the Dead Sea to be healed of all these different things. So I'm just giving a personal testimony to my little exposure to these powerful ancient sites that the energy is palatable. And I feel like the whole world needs to experience this, because once you do, you become a believer. You're not a skeptic like we were talking about at the beginning of the show. You're not like, prove it. You feel it. It's like saying, well, what's it like if you fall in love? Do you have to prove to someone? You feel it. You know if you love someone or something. It's a feeling. No one has to prove it to you because you feel it. It's so much of that, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And we take the Great Pyramid. I mean, I'm not going to go to Egypt next year, but the following year, I'm going to do a tour to Egypt to experience all of the different types of earth energy, focusing on the male and the female. And I'll show you before the end of the show a male and female Egyptian pendulum for healing. Okay. Oh. And we charge these up as we go along to the different temple spaces in Egypt. But the ancients were on about what you talk about, Amy, and balancing the male and the female. The ancients were doing that. So if we just look to the Great Pyramid alone, then you have the king's chamber, masculine energy, and then you have the queen's chamber, feminine energy, the yin and the yang, the moon and the sun. So what we do on our tour, we have private access. We have an hour private access in the king's chamber, and we have private access in the queen's chamber to work on ourselves and get the feminine and then get the masculine. And then in the king's chamber, you have the sarcophagus, which we think is an initiation chamber. It wasn't for burial. And then when people start sound toning, and you can do any sound sound you like. Don't feel inhibited. If you just want to go, do do whatever sound toning that you feel your heart wants to sing at that moment in time, and somebody's in the sarcophagus, you feel the whole reverb of the sound moving in and out. And also, if it's permitted at that time, we go 1,000 feet. You've got to be a bit of an Indiana Jones for this one, but if you've got the Indiana Jones spirit, then we go 1,000 feet down beneath the pyramid to enter this most subterranean chamber space there. And that is truly an amazing thing, because what I think is what the ancients were doing is it was about balancing our male and our female categorically. And you're on the ancestral trail yourself, I believe, in my heart, Amy. And more than that, they were looking for the soul's divine purpose. Once you've balanced that energy up within, as I'm sure you know, Amy, you have more insight into your heart and into your soul. So I think, like I said earlier, the ancestors gifted us all of these amazing power places, and we can go back, revisit them, interact them with just a little bit of guidance, where to go for the best kind of energy experience. Although being in any energy field is amazing. Being on the actual PowerPoint is like just turning the volume up to 11. And then, like you were saying earlier with the Dead Sea experience, you just feel it encompassing you. I loved it when you said that word, Amy, encompassing, because it is that, and it does that. And like you said, you feel that.
Yes, so amazing. So just beautiful. Good Lord, have we as a species gotten off track, right? I mean, because what you're describing is what I think Jesus in the Bible described, the peace that surpasses all understanding. It's that feeling of you're just so at peace, right? You're just completely content and open and harmonized. And we're, in our materialistic, vanity focused, ego driven, selfish ways. What happened to humanity? How did we get so far off track? And Maria, how do we get back? It's short of going to all these sites, because obviously now we're in this restrictive travel pandemic. What do we do?
The easiest way to do anything is literally the good old-fashioned grounding. Kick off your shoes, stand outside, and really connect with Gaia. I mean, when we connect with Gaia, with her earth energies, just with still your mind and imagine a beautiful cord going from your feet, or some people from their heart, going down gently, never penetrating, always kind of waving down into the earth. And then sometimes when you're grounding, you might feel a slight pull forward. That's Gaia accepting you, accepting your love and accepting your beauty. So stand in your garden, imagine that cord going down, feel a slight pull, and that may or may not happen, and then just breathe in that beautiful earth energy right up through the feet, up through the body, to the top of the head, and down again, and back to the earth, giving back the grace to Gaia. And do that a couple of times, and then you will feel that your body is filling up with really powerful earth energy. So it can be so simple just to do that. And at other times, think of this as well. We're coming up to a very powerful date in the ancient world, okay? It's the eightfold year. Now, the eightfold year, for example, the power places are days that are really, really powerful, and Druids and Wiccans and ancient societies recognize these. The ones that we're familiar with are the winter solstice, the summer solstice, the spring equinox, and the autumn equinox, okay? They make a cross in the heavens, and they're called the cross days. Now, in between those days, you have what's called the cross quarter days, and these are the power dates, and we're coming up to one, and it's the feminine one of the goddess.
When is it?
February the 1st. It's called Imbolc. Imbolc. So, my friends and my listeners, it's a power date. So go out into your back garden, kick off your shoes, breathe in goddess energy for Imbolc, because no day is stronger than that. And the next power day after that is the spring equinox on the 21st of March, okay? Then the next power date is the 1st of May. That's about fertility. Okay, everything that is fertile. So, listeners, you have a dream, You have a dream that you want to birth, you want to start a business, that's the time to do it. The fertile energies are there. The land is fecund, and you can tune into that and breathe in that energy and then birth something at Beltane. You plant the seed for it, yeah?
That's the March 23rd date?
That's the Beltane, May the 1st.
Oh,
May
May
the 1st is fertility, is called Beltane. Or Beltany if you're Irish and Gaelic, and so that's when you plant your seed for whatever it is you want to do. And then the next power date after that is the summer solstice on June the 21st, and the start of the harvest is called Lammas on August the 1st, and then the next power date is September the 21st, which is the autumn equinox, which sometimes falls on the 21st of September or the 23rd. And then the holiest of holiest is called Samhain, and it's on November the 1st, but you celebrate it on its eve because that's the Druid Celtic New Year. And New Year's Eve is called Samhain, and it's when the ancestors come out of the ground and they come close in spirit to us, and we can commune and do a year's divination. And that's why the Christians Christianized it to Halloween. And
I was going to say that's Halloween.
Yeah, it's taken from the ancient Celtic date of Samhain, or if you're in ancient Egypt, that's the Day of the Dead, because it's about communion with the ancestors, not with fear of ghosts, but to speak with your loved ones. What's the year going to be like ahead? Yeah.
Wow.
Then the next power day after that is December the 21st, the winter solstice, and then we're back to February the 1st in bulk after that. They are power days. So if we do meditations leading up to the eightfold year, and I do some workshops on the eightfold year because I've been a practicing Druid for too long. Actually, I don't want to say how long I've been a practicing Druid for. But what I say to people is, look, our ancient ancestors aligned all of their signs to one of those days. Do you see what I mean? So there's a beautiful site in Ireland called the Mound of Hostages, and at Imbolc, the rising sun on February the 1st sends a shaft right through to the chamber, illuminating it with light. Yeah, so it's again about empowering people on these days. So they are magical days, they are mystical days that have been seen that way for nearly 6,000 years. Now think of the energy build up in that and in that alone. So I say choose a good day. We're coming up to one in a week's or so time. Get out there and think about, what do you want for the year ahead? What is it you want to do? What is it you want to really do? Tune into that. Ask the goddess to help you, manifest that. Breathe in that energy. Breathe in your dream, and then literally exhale, and that will assist you, because that is a powerful day.
Wow, fantastic. I love it. I have a really stupid question, though. I have to ask you, are those power dates only for this coming year, or do they happen every year?
Every year. It's called the Wheel of the Year.
Every year.
The wheel of the year turns and turns, Amy, and that's not it's no question is a stupid question when you haven't heard these things before. Trust me on that one. And it's heartfelt. And so yes, every single year. And what people used to do in the ancient world, for example, they used to go to these power places, but we can do it in our garden. Come on, I was in lockdown last year. I was doing them in my garden. So right. you don't have to go to Stonehenge at all. You just need to breathe. Even if you're in a flat, in a high rise, just breathe in the air. Yeah. Imagine that the earth, the energy is coming out of the ground, even if you're in an apartment. So we can do that anywhere, and feel a part of the planet as well. Feel that connectiveness, and those are magical. Like I said, they're magical days. They truly are, and they've always been seen that way throughout the ancient world. And imagine being at an ancient site, people go in there, and the sun rises up onto alignment with the stone. And then what I discovered at places like Avebury on these dates, you will have two stones, they align and they make a shadow pointing to another stone. The Imbolc
on those dates?
On those dates. Yeah.
And why would they be pointing to that stone? To get you to go over there?
Exactly, pointing you, that's where you should be standing on this, the most sacred day. It's
That-
like pointing you, to where. And I discovered that with 2 stones at Avebury in 2006. And since that time, numerous people have done rites and rituals and joined me at those times at Avebury to witness the shadow line pointing to it. And also I say on these days, the day before these sacred days, and this is quite important, and it would be a good top tip. We've all had a year, haven't we? We've all had a year where we haven't maybe done what we wanted. When you come to these sacred days, especially the ones leading up to the spring equinox on March the 21st, let go of the failures. Don't
Nice.
bring them into the next festival. Yeah. Admit to yourself, I've had failures. Well, that didn't work out. We get a little bit upset. Let it go. Let the earth receive that. And so that's a few days before the power day. Do you see what I mean? You're cleansing it. You're getting it out of your, you're getting out of your system. And then bang, bingo, when you're on the day, you are anew and you're facing it with no fear, no failure. Let go of everything, even if it's the fear of whatever it is that you're fearful of. Let it go. And then the power day kicks in. Sometimes it gives you a bit of a kick up the butt, as they say in the States. It will really accelerate you to be more of who you already are. Yeah, it just kind of encourages you to grow, because that's what Gaia wants of us. Gaia is our mother, and I'm a mother. I have a daughter, and what we want is the best for our children. So Gaia is out there with all of these power days saying, come on, I'm your mother. You use these days and empower yourself on those days. So it, again, like I said about the ancient sites, Amy, these are gifts, gifts of Gaia to her children, and saying, use these power days. It's when the sun is at a perfect angle to the earth in the sun's rotation. That's what those power days are. So you're working with the masculine power of the sun and the divinity of the divine feminine in Gaia. Does it get any better than that? I don't think so sometimes.
And that's the creative force when they come together. So Maria, is it only for 24-hour period? When you say like February 1st, is it literally before the midnight or something?
Well, if we say the days before, like I said, work on yourself and get rid of the dross. Yeah. And then on the power day, it begins at dawn. So the power day on February the 1st will end at dawn, will start at dawn, and then it will end at the following dawn. So it will be a whole day today. Yeah, if you follow, rather than stopping at midnight, it will be the next dawn when the next day starts. So it's dawn to dawn. Okay, so even if you were awake at 2 o'clock in the morning on, February, technically February the 2nd, because you've gone past midnight, you're still on the Imbolc day, because the next dawn hasn't risen, the sun hasn't come up again.
I love it. Well, and I just want to also reiterate, you said a very important point that, a lot of times people want the next thing, want this, want the new, but they haven't done the important step. They have to create the space for it. They have to create the container. So I'm so glad that you reminded us before we tap into the manifesting on these power dates. It's very important that we get still and clear out the old first to allow the space to receive the new, because we can't bring in new when we're already full, right? So that is perfect. And I'll also add that for people that live in apartments or don't have access to natural landscape and beautiful nature, or whatever the situation is, or perhaps on that particular day, it also helps to obviously be barefoot and be on some natural material, whether it be a stone floor, a wood floor, even concrete if you have to, because it's stone, something that is not synthetic or man-made. And your clothing, try to have no synthetic fibers on you, anything like that. And be naked if you can be, would be, I guess, ideal. But, natural organic cottons and fabrics, because all of those things will screw up our energy of our body and our connection to Gaia and all of energy. So I just want to throw that in for people.
Excellent, Amy. That's beautifully said, because it's getting back to nature herself, just through clothes and you know what we wear. And I really do feel, and I would say this with love to all of your listeners, once you go through the eightfold year and you have worked, because you're working with the seasons of Gaia, you're working with all of her expressions, okay? So you get to know her. You get to know her mood in the winter. You get to know how she feels in the spring, the joy of summer, the turning wheel again when it comes to the autumn equinox. And if we can sink in with Gaia, with these natural energies around us, then we sink in with ourselves. We become more one with Gaia, with her seasons. And you will find, I think, just by experiencing it, just by going out for a walk, if you you don't want to meditate on anything, just go out for a walk, feel the rain on your face, the wind in your hair, and all of that type of beautiful stuff. And then you find you get less colds, you feel more in balance. Do you see what I mean? Because you've synced yourself back into Gaia's arms and back into Gaia's heart.
I love that. And I love how you pointed out that, Gaia is the energy of the feminine and the cyclical nature of all of life. And for those of us that are born female right now, to give ourselves permission to be phasic, to be cyclical, that is normal for us. We're not going to be awesome all the time. We're not going to have energy all the time. We're not going to feel great and beautiful and empowered all the time. And that's okay. And that's normal. So I love that you pointed out that the feminine force is a cyclical force. And that saying that people and things come into your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. We have to just figure out what it all is, right? But I love that you just reiterated the cyclical nature of the feminine. It's just so critical for us to accept and live by to be happier.
Exactly. And in ancient Druidry, that's what you do with the earth, and that's what you do with the sun. We mentioned the cycle of the sun, and also working with the cycle of the moon, which is the feminine, the very deep feminine as well, the threefold nature of the femininity of the moon, which is the maiden, which is the new moon, the mother moon is the full moon, and the wise crone aspect is dark moon. Yeah. So we're working with the moon, working with the sun, working with Gaia, you're working. I always say to my students and people I take to sites, Amy, you're working with such amazing planetary consciousness. I mean, Gaia, she's 4 billion years old. I mean, she knows far, far more than what little Maria knows in her lifetime. So when we work with these planetary bodies, we are working with such amazing, ancient, archaic, akashic energy fields, if you will, and that's a beauty in itself. And when these planets kind of get to know you, in my tradition of Druidry, the planets get to know you, you get to know the planets, I get to know Gaia, Gaia gets to know me. It's a bit like having a friendship. So you're not going to go, oh, hi, Maria, that's everything's good. They want your trust, they want your love, they want to see your heart, they want to see your soul. And when that happens, it's just like this beautiful friendship, this beautiful, lifelong, I believe, immortal friendship happens, and you feel as one with that planetary body. And that is such a profound, beautiful, smiley event as well, because you just want to kind of feel all of this love and this beauty. So next time you have a look at the moon, think of it as being living, think about it as being breathing, think about it as being a potential friend.
I love that. I love
that's how our ancient ancestors saw it, you see. So if we look through the eyes of the ancestors, we get a little glimpse into how they became one with the surroundings.
I love that. It's basically what you're describing as a homecoming. It probably feels like coming home, because that's where we're from.
Exactly.
I love that. And someone once told me that the stars, the ancient cultures believes that the stars were campfires of our ancestors. Have you ever heard that?
That's beautiful. With the Druids, they're the souls of the departed that twinkle and shine, and different cultures saw the stars different way, but always in a beautiful interpretation.
Amazing. Okay, so before we get to the end, because I want to be respectful of your time, I could talk to you forever, and I definitely want to come on one of your tours, which you have to tell us about in a moment. But I can't let you leave without please educating us on two things. First thing is your thoughts on 5G and all this electronic wireless network that we're now doing to ourselves and the planet. And last question will be, what would Mother Earth want us to know?
5G, I think in our hearts, we all know it's not a good thing. That's what I truly believe. And the Earth is electromagnetic. We have more, we call it in the UK e-smog, electromagnetic man-made smog. E-smog is what we call it, okay? And if you add into that system already, and it's polluting us terribly so, but it's also polluting the planets and the Earth energies herself. Sadly, at one ancient site, we picked up a man-made signal coming out of a stone. And if you put 5G out there, it's not just destroying our own bodies, mind, and soul. We could be really tapping into some damage to the planet and to the ancient sites. And so my heart cries out and says, no, no, no. I personally don't want 4G. And what was the other question? Sorry, Amy.
If Mother Earth could tell us a message, what do you think she would want us to know?
Love me, help me, and help me in a way that we don't consume too much. So I would say love and help.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to cry. That's so powerful. It's just, my heart breaks for what's happened to the planet. And when you really research, the animals and, the migration patterns that have changed, the species that are dying, the polar bears that are drowning. I mean, it's just like, oh my God, what are we doing? We are killing ourselves. We're killing our mother.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
So it is, and where I suppose I've been working with the earth energies for a lifetime. I feel her joy. Don't get me wrong. I feel her joy and I feel her wisdom. But now with the way that we're treating the oceans, I feel her sadness, and I've literally felt her tears sometimes. So I that's why I say just let's help Mother Earth in any way you can. Recycling, buying organic food, making your own food, growing a bit of your own food, even if it's small and you think, well, that's not going to make a difference to Gaia. You're her child. Yes, it will.
Picking up trash,
picking up trash
when you're walking, being conscious of how much you're consuming, if you really need it, being conscious of what you're throwing away and wasting, wasted food, wasted resources, being conscious of how we drive, what we drive, all these things. And then the whole, saying no to all this technology that's just destroying us. So, okay, Maria, are there any last things that you'd like to share with people that you think they should know before we close?
Well, I'm just going to briefly show you an Isis feminine pendulum. It comes into 3 bits because you can use it to absent heal, or you could use it. Now, when this is all screwed together, and this is in temple after temple, this design, and if you get one of these pendulums, I've got them on my website, and let me put it on my arm and see if
is that a wedge?
Yeah, so it's moving there. So that's picking up on an area of my elbow, which is a little bit painful at times. And now that's putting in white light. It will go round quite some time. And if it goes the opposite direction, that's taking out energy. And you must always get one that you can unscrew, because where it emits white light all the time, you can't be around that for too long. That's the feminine Isis pendulum. We need to do a show on these.
So I just want to interject, remind people they can go to YouTube to watch what she's doing for those who are just listening.
And this is the masculine one. This is again on every single depiction in a temple. It's called the Karnak pendulum, and that's masculine. And on one temple, Komombo in Egypt, they have a god holding this energy device, and from it comes the Ankh sign, which is the symbol of the life force, and healing people below. So these are very healing pendulums. So I think we can take our health into our own hands and learn from the ancient Egyptians. And when I do my tours, we empower all of these ancient Egyptian energy devices at the temples. So you're tuning into the
Charge
temple
them.
energy, and you're tuning into the colors and putting the colors into these energy devices. So when you leave, you have a powerful energy healer initiated in ancient Egypt, just like the priesthood would have done millennia ago.
And how do you clear them afterwards to keep them aligned and not get impregnated with bad energies?
These Egyptian pendulums are so powerful, they don't need energy clearing, because they are literally, the design of them themselves are self-cleaning and self-maintenance. They're not like a normal pendulum. You don't use them for yes or no responses. You use them to heal the energy field, heal the body, and to clear water. So say you've got tap water, you put the Isis pendulum together, and if she goes counterclockwise, she's taken out all the toxins. If she goes clockwise, she's putting it in. You can do food. You can, so it's not just about the human body. You could go out and help Mother Earth by doing healing trees and so on and so forth. Let your imagination flow with how, you know, one can heal with these male and female energy devices. And like I say, once they've been empowered in Egypt, oh my goodness, they're just, well, they're off the Richter scale.
Wow, I'm gonna just like point one at my head. That's fantastic. I love that. Thank you for bringing those. It's just, yeah, I'm absolutely fascinated with the ruins of Egypt. And I mean, just that's a whole nother show, their wisdom and how they lived and just what was normal to them, and their harmony and their knowledge about all these esoteric things. By the way, how would you define esoteric for us before I let you go?
Well, I always think it's good to have a curious mind, and anything that isn't kind of orthodox in a way that would used to be called the occult, which isn't a dark word, it just means that which is unknown, yeah, or paranormal or something like that. I think esoteric is about ancient wisdom. I think it's about the realms that we're not familiar with because we weren't taught them. In Egypt and in Celticism, you were taught how to live and how to die. With the Book of the Dead, for example, we were taught many, many things about the mysteries, and all of that comes under the banner, if you will, of esoteric studies and the supernatural. But it's not supernatural, it's literally what's out there for us to tap into. So it's natural, but people call it supernatural. But it's not really supernatural at all. It's just a realm we're not used to walking in. It's the seas we're not used to swimming in. And once you've swum in them for a little while, you realize that it's just normal.
Yeah. And you don't want it any other way. It's like I tell people, once they get really healthy and in tune their body, mind, and spirit, you don't accept any other way because you know what it is to feel amazing. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, I think the new normal becomes feeling like crap and achy and just accepting that they think that's part of getting older or whatever, that these things just happen. But it's not normal. And once you feel these type of energies and how good you can really feel, you don't want to accept anything less than that. So I just love what you're doing, Maria. Thank you so much for coming on the show and taking your time. I know you're such a sought out, busy woman. Can you please tell people how they can find you, how they can learn more from you, all your resources, how they can work with you, anything that you would like us to know?
Sure, I run esotericcollege.com, which is my teaching platform, and I give readings and I give energy clearings, I give house clearings as well. So I teach dowsing, I teach pendulum, Egyptian dowsing, lots of other courses besides on that platform. And then my tour company, if you will, is called the Avebury, that's AVEBURY, the Avebury Experience.co.uk, and that's where I advertise my tours. But this year they are very, very limited. I'm really aiming for 2022 to take, groups back to places like Malta and Egypt and other places alike. But realistically, I can't even travel to the States, even if I wanted to now. England is not allowed to travel. So obviously that part isn't. But my online courses are going very well. I offer group Zoom courses or private one-to-ones or home study, if you just want a home study package. Some are video tutorials and some are done by PDFs. And it's all on the website to look. And my email's on the website. So if you want a reading or if you want to talk to me and have a consultation about a course, and I can put packages, bespoke packages together. If you said to me, oh, I want a bit of house clearing, I want a bit of energy work, I want a bit of this, I say, okay, I'll do you a bespoke course personally for you. So I'm very flexible indeed.
So you can use all your education, experience, and knowledge and customize something for somebody.
Yeah. Exactly. I customize it for people, because different people are on different paths, Amy.
Of course.
So what works for some people on my group Zoom courses is great, but some people go, well, I don't really want that. I want this, I want this, I want this. And that's where you begin to blossom and flower, because it is for your path and not a collective path. And I think that's becoming a little bit more popular these days, because people are we're different. You know?
Mm-hmm. I love it. This is just fantastic. Well, I can guarantee if anybody listening or watching is planning on going one of your tours, I probably will be on one with you, and let's plan it together, because I really, it would be such a thrill to meet you in person. And I'm praying that all this lockdown stuff is over really soon so we can go back to experiencing the world and life and each other as we were designed to.
Would you like to support my mission to help empower people all over the world to be all of who they truly are? If so, please subscribe to the show, leave a review on iTunes, and share it with a friend. And if you're looking to take immediate action to align your energy and optimize your health, visit amyfournier.com. Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite. Let's awaken her together in you. I'm your hostess, Amy Fournier, and I already can't wait to be with you again and for you to hear what I have planned for the next show.
Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. To learn more about Amy, check out her website, amyfournier.com. That's amyfournier.com. You can also check out Amy's live and on-demand virtual fitness and yoga classes, and sign up for her newsletter to receive a free mini ebook of 3 of her top tips for making holistic health a lifestyle. Again, that's amyfournier.com. and get your ebook sent to your email immediately. Connect with Amy on the daily on Instagram at FitAmyTV, FITAMYTV, and watch many of the podcast episodes and subtopic clips on her YouTube channel, which is also FitAmyTV. Enjoy, and we'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite.